You are so beyond human. You're definitely a demon from hell. I truly wish your punishment would be the same death you inflicted on our kids. But I think you will meet some new friends in prison who will be there just to help you. Thumbs up.
Family members of those 4 beautiful University of Idaho students got to say their piece before the defendant was ordered to serve 4 life sentences without parole. Loved ones of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin all spoke out, many of them speaking through their tears. And it was Kaylee Goncalves' family that really didn't hold back.
Quick message from our youngest daughter. Aubrey wanted to say, you may have received A's in high school and college, but you're gonna be getting big D's in prison.
You want the truth? Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love that. That deserved a standing ovation. Now tell us, which victim impact statements do you believe had the biggest impact on the day, on the defendant, maybe on you? Let's talk about it. I got 2 great guests standing by to help me out with this. I'm going to bring them in now. High-profile trial attorney John Phillips is with us, and the owner of Black Ops Private Investigations. He's a former Army intelligence officer and NYPD detective, Manuel Gomez. Great to have you both on the program this morning. All right, so biggest impact on you for whatever reason. John Phillips, would you start us off, please?
You know, justice is spelled one way, it's defined many different ways, right? You get the criminal justice, you get the civil justice, the sentencing, you know, along the way. This is where the families get their own justice. And you know, we tend to go through our clients' victim impact statements, and like the big D comment, I would have said, please don't, you know, that it doesn't add anything. But they were all powerful. I'm not going to choose one over the other because they, you know, they all come from the heart. They all come from a place of immense pain that's existed, you know, day after day, no answers. And this is their time to finally get to confront the person that did this and ruin their families. So, you know, kudos to all the families. Sentencing is one of the hardest days for everybody. Both sides are super tense. You can feel, you know, the electricity in the room. And, you know, kudos to these victims for standing up and speaking out.
Yes, yes, John. They were all so brave, so courageous. That is not easy to do. And hopefully in some way, maybe in some small way, it was a bit cathartic for them. I sure hope that. Manuel Gomez, your thoughts. What really spoke to you the most and why, please?
Well, what spoke to me the most is, well, first of all, I want to say kudos to the police department. Excellent police work done in this entire case. The second, what spoke to me the most was one of the documents that was released by the Moscow police, which was the autopsy reports. He stabbed Xana over 50 times, Kaylee in the face over 20 times. This man deliberately tried to kill their beauty. And he reminded me of David Berkowitz with his stoic look in court. David Berkowitz, to some extent, did the same thing. He used to shoot women and then shoot them in the face as well. That's exactly what he did. And one of the parents talked about getting a life sentence. I am so disappointed in this case that the judge let this plea go in and not let him go to trial and get the death sentence. The judge saw the atrocities done in this case, and he still let this guy live for the next 40 years because we're going to be paying for him in jail. He should not be alive. This was the perfect candidate for the death sentence.
Manuel, I agree with you that he was the perfect candidate for a death sentence. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's interesting, and for anybody wondering, legally, the judge could reject the plea agreement. Legally, he could. And we know that it's up to the state of Idaho to choose to seek the death penalty. So they were largely in control in choosing to say, okay, would rather be safe than sorry and remove this from the prosecution in exchange for an agreement on those life sentences. And here we are. He's going away, from what we understand at Court TV, to one of the worst prisons in America. So thank goodness for that. Let's talk a bit about this defendant and his interaction with the court. The judge gave him a chance to speak, which we knew was coming. We know every defendant, Manuel, John, you both know this, every defendant is afforded that opportunity in court at the time of sentencing to say their piece. Let's listen to what Kohberger said.
Does the defense have evidence to present today?
No evidence.
All right. Does the defense wish to make argument today?
Where we do not wish to make arguments, Mr. Kohberger, along with his legal team, is prepared for the court to enter judgment proceedings.
All right, Mr. Kohberger, you have an opportunity to make a statement if you wish to. I take it you are declining.
I respectfully decline.
Okay, you gentlemen know how I feel about it, but we want to hear how you feel about it. Manuel Gomez, your thoughts, please.
I feel that, like I said, he actually got excited at one point in the court when I saw the roommate say, I didn't know what happened. And you'll see Kohberger turn his head, and literally it was a level of excitement. I mean, that he didn't realize that the girl didn't realize that they were all dead. And, you know, this guy, not saying anything, he was sitting there basking, enjoying it, enjoying the pain and suffering of it. Like I said, this was a straight up monster. And the sad, unfortunate thing is, Julie, we're not safe still, because we also have another serial killer out there, Travis Decker. And we also have another serial killer that has left 13 bodies along the New England coast. So people, this is a wake up call. You need to look around, and you need to get something that'll protect your home. Preferably something like a little dog or something like that that will alert you to someone coming in your house.
Manuel, you know, we love talking to you about ways we can stay safer, and there's nothing wrong with being hyper vigilant. And you're right. I mean, Kohberger is the perfect example of a monster living among us. Like, who would think a PhD student, you know, I mean, just looks so nerdy and like, you know, who's he going to harm? And look what he did, the devastation he caused. My goodness, anybody is capable of anything. We all know that in the kind of work that we do. John Phillips, I want to ask you, please, about his statement, those 3 words, I respectfully decline. What did you think when you heard him do that?
First off, shout out to Scout and Bailey, 2 little dogs that alerted us this morning at 6 a.m. when the water guy, you know, came to our door. Like, you know, Manuel's right. You know, you do need alerts. You do need alarms. Like Ring doorbells, $1 billion business. Everybody, you know, needs more, you know, watching out for themselves, and we have to watch out for each other. But going to the question, you know, I respectfully decline. You know, I could say this is the coward's way out. I could say, you know, he owed more to these families. You know, usually in a sentence, you do try to, you know, at least apologize a little bit. You know, you find some words to craft. They didn't want any of it. You know, they just wanted to get through this. And the victims were owed more. And it is disappointing. There is no respect in anything he did. There was no humility. There was no, you know, kindness. He wasn't saving the court time. He wasn't saving the victims, you know, his own defense. He was continuing all the way through to victimize the victims, and shame on him.
Yeah, shame on him. You're so right, John. And I love you use the word coward. You know, when I was thinking about my opening statement last night, I had done one earlier this week on that coward Stephen Stearns. And I was thinking how, boy, it's like the week of cowards here in the world of true crime and trial. 2 monsters who were predators, you know, and in different situations, but both predators and both cowards. You're so right. Manuel Gomez, you know, one day we'll have to do a segment with you on safety in general, because this is one of those things. I think everybody is still walking away feeling so fearful, and like it could happen to anyone. You know, and these children just unfortunately happen to be the victims here. So thank you so much for weighing in. Manuel Gomez, you've got cases to work, your company Black Ops, Private Investigations. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. John Phillips is coming with us. Please do the same at home when we come back Well, now for what's tipping the scales of justice, hundreds of documents released by police after the sentencing for defendant Bryan Kohberger. And we know more information is coming. Our team here at Court TV is pouring through the documents right this minute, and we've gleaned some things already. And largely, what we've seen is law enforcement describing the steps that they took to gather all of the evidence to lead them back to this killer. What may be stunning to some is that it's still unclear what motivated the killings.
You said earlier you couldn't identify a reason the house was targeted. Do you have a motive? We don't.
And I would add that going through this whole investigation, I'd probably say it's easier than it was for Bill's offices. We were focused on a task. We had a task to do, and it was discovering evidence and interviewing folks and that sort of thing. So the motive necessarily doesn't play a part in that, right? Obviously it can, but we were just focused on getting the job done in the correct way as best we could.
So let's talk more about this. And will we ever be able to ascertain if there was a motive behind these killings? Let's bring in our legal eagles, Michael J. Brown and John Phillips. I've been so anxious to have this conversation because I've had it off air with some of my colleagues, and just based on my personal experience, I had one case where we didn't know what the motive was, and it was very troubling to me. And I remember talking to the lead detective, and he's like, "Julie, you have to just resign yourself to, like, we're just not going to know. We just won't know." However, you still have all the evidence to prove everything you need to prove, and the guy is still behind bars. So let's talk about this. Have you both, in your experiences, I'm curious, ever had a case with no motive that was identifiable? Michael, let me start with you, please.
Julie, I have. You know, most cases you are able to point your finger at something. It's a love triangle. Maybe there's a gas station robbery and they're taking money. Maybe there's a business relationship that went sour. So most cases you do see that. But over my career, I have seen cases where it's simply a power, control, thrill to kill type of situation where, I mean, that's a motive, but it's not the motive that we're looking for, which is some reason or rationale to commit that crime. But it happens. I don't think it's the rule. I think it's the exception. But clearly it does happen. And I think, unfortunately, in this case, they're going to dig deep. They're never going to find anything other than a psychological whack job, for lack of a better word, a guy who's talking about power and thrill, and it's all about him and is a narcissist. And there's no rationale other than power and control. And I think that's what we're going to end up with on this case.
I think you're right. Great analysis, Michael. Thank you. John Phillips, same question to you. Throughout your career, have you ever seen one of those cases with no motive?
I mean, again, I'll echo Michael. It is rare. It does happen. And you know, it depends on your definition, not to Bill Clinton this, but it depends on your definition of motive, right? Like, we handle a lot of police cases, and in police cases, you don't have police that necessarily want to kill somebody. There's just systemic issues, the amygdala, how African Americans are treated in American justice, how things escalate. You know, the motive is kind of vague there, which I think is why jurors have such problems with those cases. Plus, they want to side with police. But sometimes you just got to let it go. You know, and here you do have somebody that just is one of the, you know, bottom 1% of all humans on earth that you know, I don't think a reasonable mind could understand his mind anyway. You know, I mean, we're all operating within reason and accountability, and some people are just, you know, for lack of a better way to put it, animals.
Right. And no offense to any of the animals watching the show. We have lots of, you know, doggies and kitties at home that, no, I know what you mean. I've had people say to me, "Why'd you call that guy an animal?" I say, well, we have to abide by FCC regulations. I'm kind of limited in the language I could use, so animal's a good word. John, great points. I want to show you and Michael a couple things that we were able to pull from the documents. Corporal Brett Payne was one of the first Moscow police officers to go to the crime scene. When he entered Xana Kernodle's bedroom, this is what he saw. He saw a large amount of blood on the floor and around Xana as well. Numerous wounds on her arms, her hands, her face. He could tell it had been caused by an edged weapon. She was next to the west wall, or next to the west wall, rather, a small white nightstand, which appeared to have been moved as it was pushed against the wall. He said at an odd angle, and blood on the nightstand as well. He said he went into Ethan, the area where Ethan was, and he could not clearly see the wounds to Ethan's head and neck, but could see a very large amount of blood on the bed as well. Appeared to be blood spatter on the wall next to Ethan's head and his neck. Noticed 2 large cuts to the back of his legs. The wounds appear to be deep tissue wounds. Difficult, though, to see there with his body position. Xana stabbed 50 times, we understand. Michael J. Brown, what did you think when you heard that?
Julie, it goes back to what we were talking about: power, thrill to kill, control. When I looked at him in the sentencing, you know, he reminded me of Nicholas Cruz on the Parkland murders. It's that stare, it's that look, it's really this narcissism off the charts times 100, that the only person on the face of the earth is him. There's no remorse. I'm glad he didn't speak. There was nothing he would have said that would have helped anybody on this type of case. I am glad he didn't speak, and I'm glad the victims were able to get up there and say what they had to say. And to some extent, it's a catharsis type of situation where they're able to just get their emotions out. So I'm glad he didn't open his mouth, quite frankly.
Right, Michael. Yeah, I don't think we would have liked anything that he would have said. And he'd lie. You know, how can we trust him? Good riddance. I wish we had more time to talk. We adore you both on this show. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips, thank you both so much for your time and analysis. We'll look forward to you back here next Thursday morning. Get off to court, go win those cases. We'll see you soon. When we come back after this break, my friends, we're going to look at some unaired footage from the case in Washington.